Hello and welcome. So 2017 is rapidly coming to a close, and I decided it was high time that I finalized my 2018 priority reading list. So what I did was I already uploaded part one video, which was the first half of the list, and this video is going to be the second half of the list. And I won't reiterate how I built the list because I talked about that in part one video. So if you're interested in that, I'll link to that below. But I did create the list basically around themes this year. So in this video, I will cover 5 different reading themes. So let's get to it. The first theme on my list is hard-boiled detective stories or noir fiction. I've never read any of this type of genre, and so 2018 is going to be my year to do that. I decided to include 2 different works on this theme. The first one is The Big Sleep by Raymond Chandler. This is a detective story originally published in 1939. This is the Philip Marlowe. I think this is the first of the Philip Marlowe detective stories, and I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies starring Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. So I'm really thrilled to finally gonna get the Big Sleep book read. Then next I have. Another one of the greats for this genre is Dashiell Hammett. I'm going to be reading The Maltese Falcon next year. Another great movie with Humphrey Bogart, great film noir movie. But yeah, I've never read this, and so looking forward to this. Hoping it's as good as the movie. Both of these books, or both of these movies anyway, have really snappy dialogue. I'm hoping that sort of follows through in the novels, and I understand that it does. So looking forward to this very much. So the next theme, I also chose 2 works for the next theme, and the next theme is vintage or classic science fiction. And one book I really wanted to make sure to get read is something by the Strugatsky brothers in 2018, so I decided to choose Definitely Maybe. This was 1974, came out in 1974. This is Soviet-era Russian science fiction. This will be the 3rd of the Strugatsky brothers' science fiction works that I have read. This one concerns scientists who find themselves getting distracted from their work, and it seems like maybe there's some force at work there trying to keep knowledge from progressing. So it sounds kind of good. This one got recommended by several commenters over the last year or so. So gonna read Definitely Maybe. It's gonna be at least I'm gonna get this one read from the Strugatskys next year. Then my other work of vintage classic science fiction that I'm planning on reading in 2018 is Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. This is Polish science fiction, originally published in 1961. I have never read Solaris, and I have never seen the movies. I think there's been at least two movie adaptations of it, so it's all going to be completely new to me. My understanding is that this is an ocean world, Solaris, and some humans go to explore this world and then find themselves needing to confront some painful internal memories. And I think this book asks the question, I wrote it down here, can we understand the universe around us without first understanding what is within us? Good question, Solaris. We shall see. So then my next themed my next theme is actually history, and the first book on that under that theme is The Coming of the Third Reich by Richard J. Evans. This was originally published in 2003. I only have a title page, not a cover for this one. But this is the first of a 3-volume history of the Third Reich that comes highly recommended to me by someone that I know. And so I at least wanted to get the first volume of this read, History of the Third Reich. So kind of an ongoing interest of mine. And then I have, pull up the next one, a really deep history, one of these big deep histories that I really love, by Steppe, Desert and Ocean, The Birth of Eurasia, published in 2015 by Barry W. Cunliffe. This covers, I think, about the last 10,000 years, all the way from Western Europe all the way to China. And I love this kind of deep in time, kind of back in time into prehistory kind of work, and so I'm really looking forward to this. This should illustrate how the Europe and the Asia that we know today sort of came to be. So looking forward to that. Then next I have Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. This is a brief history of humankind, the history of our species. I had meant to get this read in 2017, but I have run out of time, so this is going to be a priority read for 2018. I read Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari in 2017. It was one of my favorite reads of 2017, so I'm looking forward to reading Sapiens very much. Then I have Sea of Faith, Islam and Christianity in the Medieval Mediterranean World by Stephen O'Shea. I bought this book used, and I managed to get a author-signed copy, which is pretty cool. This was published in 2006. This is, one of these Mediterranean. I love the history of the Mediterranean area, and this concerns the sort of the history, I guess, of Christianity and Islam of North Africa and the Christianity of Europe and their interaction during the medieval period. Sort of across the Mediterranean Sea. So this should be good. Looking forward to that. And then that finishes out the theme of history, but I have next the theme of what I'm calling foundational myths or foundational beliefs. And let me just pull the first book up under that topic that I have here. Get this for you. Chasing Zeus, A Journey Through Greece in the Footsteps of a God by Tom Stone. This was published in 2008. This blurb says, Tom Stone takes readers on a 4,000-year journey through the god's tumultuous life, from his origins as a sky god on the Russian steppes and his scandalous reign on Mount Olympus, to his approaching end in a palace in Christian Constantinople. So, yeah, history of Zeus should be really good. Looking forward to that. It's kind of, I think, a kind of a travel log, too, across Greece. So, should be good. Then next I have kind of a whopper. This is kind of my challenge read for 2018. Joseph and His Brothers by Thomas Mann. This was originally published in 1943. This has 4 different parts. The 4 parts are the stories of Jacob, the story of Jacob, young Joseph, Joseph in Egypt, and Joseph the Provider. 1,500 pages of the story of Joseph by Thomas Mann. I really am going to commit myself to read this, get through all 1,500 pages and all 4 parts of this really well-known and highly regarded work by Thomas Mann. I've never read anything by Thomas Mann, so I just decided to start with this big baby first. Start with the big thing first, right? The blurb says, Mann conjures for us the world of patriarchs and pharaohs, the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Palestine, and the universal force of human love in all its beauty, desperation, absurdity, and pain. So this sounds really good. So it's going to be kind of a whopper to get through, but I'm going to do it. So yeah. So next we have. Let me pull it up. Find it for you. It's going to be the electronic version. It's Shahnameh, the Persian Book of Kings by Abolqasem, Ferdowsi, and I hope I pronounced that somewhat right. This was published in 1010. Yes, 1010. 1,000 years ago. This is sort of the epic story of Iran, all the way from the mythological creation myths, I guess, all the way through the Islamic, I guess, conquest of later on. It ends, I guess, around the year 1000, since it was published in 1010. I think this is not that well known in the West, or maybe not as well known as it should be. I wasn't that aware of it. I heard about it off of another BookTube channel this year, and so I really wanted to get it read because it really is one of these epics of world literature that I feel like I should familiarize myself with. So looking forward to that. Then finally, under the theme of foundational myths or foundational beliefs, I am going to read The Last Temptation of Christ by Nikos Kazantzakis. This was originally published in 1952. This tells the story's fiction, tells the story of the divine Jesus and the human Jesus, and the conflict that between the divine Jesus and the human Jesus. And I saw this movie many years ago, and it was somewhat controversial, but I thought it was really kind of cool. I thought it really really was really cool the way it explored that idea of the human Jesus and then, wrestling with the divine, or the divine wrestling with the human, actually, probably. So it should be good. So I'm looking forward to finally getting this read in 2018. So that finishes out the theme of foundational myths or foundational beliefs. So my next theme is actually music or art theme. I really wanted to have some books that were related to music or related to art, and I wound through several iterations of putting books in this under this theme and taking them out and putting them back. Ultimately, I decided to include Compass by Matthias Énard. I read Zone by Matthias Énard earlier this year in 2017. Absolutely loved it. The music tie-in for this work of fiction is that a musicologist who is an insomniac, I think my understanding is, goes into a sort of a fitful sleep, and then we, the reader, experience his dreams and his memories. And I just wrote down a little bit of the blurb. It says, Énard pulls astonishing elements from disparate sources, 19th century composers and esoteric Orientalists, Balzac and Agatha Christie, and binds them together in a most magical way. So if this is anything like Zone was, which I absolutely love, I think I'm really going to like this. So looking forward to it. Then next I have a work of nonfiction. It does not have a nice cover, but it is Disarmed, the story of the Venus de Milo by Gregory Curtis, published in 2013. This tells the story of, the famous statue, Venus de Milo, discovered in 1820 on the island of Melos, and then, the journey of that statue from that point to becoming one of the, iconic sort of treasures of world heritage. So biography of the Venus de Milo should be good. Looking forward to that. Then finally, this next one's kind of quirky because she sounded kind of fun. I saw an interview with this author, and so it sounded, the author's description of it sounded really good, and then the description of the book sounded really good. It's called The Mazursky Riddle by Darren Kennedy, published in 2015. This is a 13-year-old boy loses the ability, or stops talking, and the doctors can't figure out anything that's wrong, and his mother, sort of out of desperation, enlists the aid of a psychic, who then discovers that the boy's mind has been shattered into the different movements of the pictures at an exhibition suite, the classical music suite, pictures at an exhibition by Mathias Mazursky. And then I just wrote down here, the psychic finds the child's psyche's been shattered into the various movements. She goes in search of the reason why, and I think she encounters a lot of other sort of magical beings like gnomes and witches and things like this. So it sounds like it's going to be a little bit of maybe a magical fantasy, and it sounded really good to me. And with the tie-in with Mazursky's pictures at an exhibition, I just couldn't resist putting it on my must-read list. So that's coming up too. So that concludes those last 15 works off the list. I do have 30 works total, 15 of fiction, 15 of nonfiction, which was a total coincidence, but kind of cool. Like I said, I'm going to be letting the randomness of the universe choose the order that these are read in. So at the beginning of the year, I will have a drawing that'll choose the first work, and then a random drawing will choose the subsequent works until I'm done with my priority must-read list, which usually takes me several months to do. So I hope that some of these books might be of interest to you. I will be doing chats with them as I finish them throughout the year, and so stay tuned. There will be a lot coming. Take care and Happy New Year. Bye.